For most people, saving up a down payment can be the biggest barrier to buying a home. That's why Rocket Mortgage is lowering down payments to 1% for eligible home buyers with ONE+. You heard that right, 1% down on a home with ONE+ from Rocket Mortgage. You put down 1%, Rocket covers an additional 2%, and you're off to the races. Call 1-800-4ROCKET or visit rocket.com to see how you can get a head start on your starter home. Rocket Mortgage LLC, licensed in 50 states, NMLS, consumeraccess.org, #3030.
Wake that ass up.
Early in the morning.
The Breakfast Club.
We are the Breakfast Club. Loren LoRosa is here. Let's get in some front page news. Happy birthday to Kendrick Lamar. Today is actually Kendrick Lamar's birthday, so drop a bomb for Kendrick Lamar. But let's get in some front page news. Last night in sports, OKC beat the Pacers 120-109. So they lead the series 3-2. What's up, Morgan?
Hey, y'all. Hey, how you feeling on a Tuesday?
Good.
Love to hear it. Okay, first on front page, President Trump says Iran wants to talk about the de-escalation with Israel. Now, speaking at a G7 summit in Canada, Trump said he gave Iran a 60-day window to bargain with the U.S. over their nuclear capabilities. And Israel attacked on the last day that deal or that window expired. President Trump says Iran is not in a strong position right now. Let's take a listen to his comments on Iran.
They'd like to talk, but they should have done that before. It's painful for both parties, but I'd say Iran is not winning this war.
He added he's heard through intermediators Iran is interested in pulling back aggressions. The president also said he thinks Iran wants to talk because Israel's doing so well right now. Meanwhile, President Trump is back in the States this morning after leaving that G7 summit in Canada early and boarding Air Force One to return home. The president said his departure was due to the conflict between Israel and Iran and that he wanted to focus on the matter. Now, that G7 summit was 3 days and it's supposed to end, I believe, tomorrow. Summit attendee French President Emmanuel Macron, he told reporters that he heard Trump was leaving to work on a ceasefire proposal, but Trump fired off on social media, insisting that Macron had no idea why he was returning to Washington, but certainly said it has nothing to do with a ceasefire. Trump did not take questions when he touched down at Joint Base Andrews this morning.
Now, Morgan, quick question. You were talking about Iran and Israel. Do we know, I know they said about 250 to 300 people died so far. Are they civilians or is that military? Is it just,
I do not have.
Okay.
I do not have the exact numbers as to who.
Because I was just wondering if they were just aiming directly at military bases and places that they thought nuclear weapons were going to be made.
I do believe some civilians are included in those numbers, MV. I was going to say it's not just one or the other. I believe that would be a joint number regarding both civilians and military, but I do not have exact. I don't have the exact numbers per se to those fatalities and but it is on the rise, right, to your point. Elsewhere at the G7, President Trump says he says the U.S. has signed a trade deal with the United Kingdom. Now, Trump made those announcements with UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer at the G7 summit in Canada. He called it a fair deal for both, and the two celebrated the new trade agreement and showed the signed documents to reporters. Let's take a listen to their comments.
We just signed it, and it's done. And so we have our trade agreement.
A very good day for both of our countries, a real sign of strength. So thank you again, Donald. A really important day for both of us.
Great people, great people.
So the exact terms of that deal were not disclosed. And I also think it's important to also note that President Trump warned on social media, Truth Social, back to the original story in Iran and Israel, that there should be an immediate evacuation of Tehran. Israel has also issued an evacuation alert for residents northeast of Tehran. So just keep you guys posted as to what happens on the presidential front and as far as international affairs go. And one more story really quickly before we go into the next hour. The Army does not feel like Saturday's military parade did not provide much damage to D.C. streets. Now, an Army spokesperson says the assessment following the parade is not showing any serious damage to the parade
because nobody was there
or the staging area. They're talking about the tanks on the streets, but the Army credits the lack of damage due to protective steps taken before the parade, including rubber pads and tanks, rubber pads on tank tracks and steel plates in several areas. But the National Park Service Service and Federal Highway Administration says tests for those streets for underground damage is underway for the next few weeks. So they won't really truly know for a little while now. But I'll keep you posted on that. But the Army says, nah, we ain't do it.
Yeah,
so.
nah. Well, they were thinking military equipment and all the millions of people that was supposed to be there. But just military equipment and 2 people, there ain't that much damage.
No, I literally watched the street crumble under the tanks, you know, but I'm not going. Yeah, I mean, you could see the cracks in the streets, and it's really sad because, you know, DC streets, we can't catch a break anyways. And at the 7 o'clock hour, we'll get into what's going on with ICE because you already know there's the drama. So stick around.
Let me find out Morgan was the only person there watching that in the parade. She was the only one out there watching it.
We did a little drive-by, but we wasn't just sticking around. No, we wasn't going to.
All right. Well, that is front page news. Jess is here. What up, Jess?
What's up? I'm good. How y'all doing?
Good morning. Get it off your chest. 800-585-1051. If you need to vent, you can hit us up right now. Again, 800-585-1051. It's The Breakfast Club. Good morning. Morning, everybody. It's DJ NV, Jess Hilarious, Charlamagne the Guy. We are The Breakfast Club. LoRosa here. Let's get in some front page news. Now, last night, OKC beat the Pacers 120-109. OKC leads this series 3-2. Now, I don't know if you was listening, Morgan, but during Get It Off Your Chest, somebody was mad that you called Donald J. Trump the president.
Yeah, you know.
And then she tried to blame me. It was you. She tried to blame me. I guess it's the DMV
Why would you
thing.
call the president by his title? Oh, man, I don't know.
Right. Whether we agree or not. Like, what the hell?
You know, I try not to get too much onto my personal, but you know, that's the man's title. So that's what we're going to go with.
I'm just joking. What's up? What we talking about?
Meanwhile, President Trump is ramping up ICE raids, which have sparked major protests in Los Angeles and other major cities around the U.S. On Sunday, Trump announced that he is directing his administration to use every resource possible on mass deportation efforts. He mentioned increasing enforcement actions in cities like Los Angeles, Chicago, New York, and other cities that he considers the, quote, core of the Democrat power center. Now, this comes as 38 people have been arrested in connection with the No Kings protests that took place over the weekend on Saturday in downtown Los Angeles, California. LA Mayor Karen Bass has this message after more than a week of straight protests. Let's take a listen.
My message to Angelenos is that we have to stand together. My message as mayor is that I respect and honor our tradition here, which is we are a city of immigrants. And I think, frankly, that is our strength.
So President Trump continues to defend his use of the military in LA, saying if the National Guard wasn't on call and ready, then the protesters would rip LA apart. Now, 35 arrests on Sunday were for violating curfew. One person was arrested for failing to disperse, another for resisting arrest, another for resisting, obstructing, or delaying an officer. The LAPD says protests remained peaceful for most of the day. That was on Saturday. Since June 7th, the LAPD has arrested about 561 people in connection with ongoing protests against federal immigration raids. Now, 12 officers have suffered injuries during that time as well. So
now,
we'll continue.
I do have a question. I see it says as of June 1st, they said ISIS picked up 51,000 people. I wonder how that affects the economy, right? Because they're not just picking up people from jail. They're picking up people from their jobs. They're picking up people that are working. They're people that
from their homes,
people that have, you know, are committed to America. So I wonder how that affects economies in different places.
We're definitely we're going to see how that tends to impact us economically, probably over the course of the next, few months. But to your point, Envy, that you're seeing a lot of people being picked up on their workplace, and a lot of people who are not going to work because they're fearful or not going to schools or not even participating in extracurriculars with their kids. It's happening here in the DMV as well. Football games and soccer games that, parents are afraid to go to, extracurricular activities that parents are afraid to go to because of ICE raids and these ICE raids, and they're pulling up, not identifying themselves, which brings me to my next story. California lawmakers are introducing new legislation aimed at making law enforcement officials, including federal agents, provide better identification and not hide their faces with things like masks. U.S. Attorney for Massachusetts, Leah Foley, has some comments on that. Let's take a listen.
Federal agents and their children are being threatened, doxxed, and assaulted. That is why they must hide their faces.
So the decision by California lawmakers follows ongoing protests across the country, as previously mentioned. The bill aims for more transparency and public safety. Lawmakers also say it takes away the idea of what they call secret police. It may face an uphill battle as federal agents, including ICE agents, typically work under federal immigration law and not state law, which brings me to the next story. In New York, Mayor Eric Adams was asked about all of this. You know, how do you feel about working with ICE on which type of matters are you working with ICE? And, you know, initially when we started talking about these ICE raids, Eric Adams took the stance where he was like, I'm just, you know, we're not going to be involved. We're not going to work with ICE. But now he's saying that he will, in fact, in the city, will work with ICE on criminal matters, not civil matters. Let's take a listen.
We do not in any way collaborate with civil enforcement. We're going to always collaborate with criminal actions.
Of course, as previously mentioned, Trump announced he is directing his administration to use every resource possible on mass deportation efforts, and also mentioned New York, LA, and other cities in those comments. And if I can, before I go, Vance Bolter, the man who was on that killing spree, or to an extent, in Minnesota. He has officially been charged in federal and state court over the murder of Minnesota lawmaker Melissa Hortman and her husband. Bolter appeared in federal court on Monday, charged with multiple crimes, including stalking, murder with a firearm, and fire offenses. He also faces multiple counts of second-degree intentional murder and attempted murder in state court, where a Minnesota judge ordered Bolter's bail to be set at $5 million. So that's your front page news. Continue to follow us on socials at Black Information Network. Download the free iHeartRadio app and visit us at binnews.com. You can find me on social at Morgan Media. Thank you so much, y'all.
All right, boo.
I do have one question, Morgan, before we go.
Yeah,
right?
let's get to it.
So the shooter that you just spoke about, who killed 2 people and wounded 2 other people, shot 2 other people,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
How the hell do they give him a bond of $5 million? He killed 2 people, right? And he shot 2 other people. They gave him a bond at $5 million, right? Not to compare left and right.
Yeah.
Diddy is accused of doing a bunch of crazy-ish.
Yes.
They got no bond. This guy killed 2 people, dressed up as a police officer, shot 2 others, and got a $5 million bond?
Right.
Guess what race is? I just want to say that. I just want to say that because that's wild. That is wild.
Yeah, yes it is. And that's your front page news. This is America. Thank y'all. Have a good one.
Wake that ass up.
In the morning.
The Breakfast Club.